In today's video, we are going to make a rather unique looking Valentine's Day wreath. I'm considering it retro, but I'm not married to the idea. If you think there's a better category or genre that it fits into, let me know in the comments below. Before I start any project, I first evaluate what materials I already have that I could put to use or recycle, and I did just so happen to have an empty, unused solid wreath base available, but normally I would use a styrofoam base like one of these two options here, preferably the example on the right, because it has this really nice flat surface area, which is a lot easier to attach decorative items to, as opposed to the example on the left, which has a rounded surface area. Either one of these two options are a great match. The only wreath base that I would strongly discourage is the example in the middle. This is a metal wreath base that is very specifically for burlap or ribbon wreath making, and I suppose you could make it work if you had to, but because of the open gaps, it'll just be really flimsy. My wreaths are usually so full with decorations that whatever material I use to cover the base doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. So I just try to look for something cheap, and I found this yarn on clearance at Joann Fabrics. They only had one in this pink color, and I wasn't sure it would be enough to cover the wreath. I hate being unprepared, so I went and grabbed two different styles of pink from a different sale bin to have as a backup just in case. Typically, people will use pipe cleaners to attach a covering like this over their wreath base because it is the responsible thing to do. I'm not going to do that because I feel comfortable enough just taking the yarn and wrapping it around and tying it by hand. I think that will be secure enough. I don't want to just go straight around the wreath and wait until I run out of this yarn to see if it's going to be enough. So instead, I'm just trying to strategize this by putting sections all around the wreath and seeing how full I can get those sections. And I did end up getting pretty far. This is where we ended up. I was so grateful in this moment that I had gotten the other two styles of backup yarn because I did end up using them. I was able to cover the remainder of the dead space in the wreath with just one pack of the yarn, and then I decided to take the second pack and run it over the other pale pink yarn just to blend it all together and make it look like it was all intentional and made to be mismatched pinks like this. I'm going to take some styrofoam heart sticks, and I'm just going to remove the heart from the stick. These are from the dollar store, and I have two different styles that I'm going to steal hearts from. And then I'm going to take this heart banner sign. This is also from the dollar store, and I'm just going to cut it up and extract the hearts from it. My philosophy or mantra when I make anything is that if you want to make something original, you have to use original materials, meaning things that are really out of the box. This is Percy. He was a pencil pouch that I found at Office Depot a few years ago. When I see something poodle, I just can't resist because they're so cartoonish and ridiculous in the best way, and they're also somewhat of a rare animal to find. Today I'm sacrificing his pencil storage abilities and donating him to the cause for our Valentine wreath because his slinky body will wrap around, making him sit so perfectly on the wreath for decoration. And if you're thinking, well, that's no fair, I need a poodle accessory for my wreath. Don't you worry, I found an identical dupe at Five Below in the form of a feather boa, so it will wrap around the wreath just like mine is. And best of all, he's only $5. $10 if you need to ship him because you don't have a Five Below near you. Now I'm just securing his hands and feet around the front of the wreath with a pink pipe cleaner around a heart from our dollar store banner. Percy gets lonely, so we bought him some friends from Joann's clearance Christmas ornament section. I thought we had plenty until I went to Michael's the next day for something completely unrelated, and then I stumbled upon some Lovebirds Swans, which was an absolute must because did you know that when you take two swans and nuzzle their beaks together, they create a heart in between them? That is nature in its finest glory. It's so sweet and adorable that even though we don't have room for them, we're just gonna make it work somewhere down the road. This is a heart that is left over from a banner that I took apart to disperse in between these hearts on my mantle. I think I got it a few years ago from the Target $3 bin. And I didn't end up using every single one of them. I had one left over, so I just wanted to have an excuse to use that. I threw a doily over it, and now I'm going to give our bear a heart to hug because he needs to bear hug something. He feels a little naked. Then I'm going to assemble a bunch of these ornaments on the wreath. I've had this unicorn sticker for a while that I've been wanting to use for something, so I just attached it to a white felt heart from the dollar store. And then I remembered that I also had a fake cupcake that I purchased on the clearance rack from Michael's several months ago when I was collecting things for my candy castle, and I didn't end up using it, so I wanted to just throw this in the mix so that I could get some use out of that. And now we put the wreath on the door. I'm going to try to fit these swans somewhere. I took their clips out from underneath them. They were in there pretty good. And I'm just going to reattach them to the back of the swans to help me attach them to the wreath. They weren't really fitting anywhere except for right here. And even right here, they were falling forward a little bit. So I had to put a miniature heart ornament behind them to sort of propel them forward. And then I took some fake plastic heart rings from the dollar store. They had red and hot pink, and I just dispersed a few of the hot pink ones along the outside of the wreath to give a little pop of glam. I even found a heart Care Bear at the dollar store that I was able to throw in the mix, and then I also added this heart puff keychain, but this ended up being a mistake because it ended up camouflaging itself in with the rest of the wreath. It sort of just blended together too well, and you couldn't even tell that it was a heart with an arrow through it anymore. So I needed to put a heart shape over it to emphasize that a heart was there, and without thinking I just grabbed one of those polka dotted hearts and threw it on top of the heart puff keychain, which was bothersome because now I have two polka dotted hearts on the top of the wreath and I have two hearts on the bottom with the doilies. The hearts on the bottom with the doilies were the ones I decided to change because they were sitting directly across from one another. The heart on the left was an easy fix because I just put a polka dotted heart on top of that one. However, I couldn't do the same for the one on the right because it was sitting right underneath a polka dotted heart already, which is why I decided to just replace it with a plain red heart. All of the pink fuzzy material that you see coming through in the wreath is some fake pink ostrich feathers that I used as an attempt to hide the remainder of any hot glue that was exposed. And that was my final step. Thank you guys so much for watching. What was your favorite animal or decorative item that we added in the wreath today? Let me know in the comments below.